So, if you want to start, you can go whenever you want, and you can look at me. So, and then, yeah, so it probably goes to like about mid-tie. I have you on there.
Okay, I'll tell you a little about the brief history of Grace Lutheran Church. Grace Lutheran Church was the dream of the American Lutheran Church in 1964. They talked about starting 40 more in 64, and we were one of 40 new congregations established that year. And I got the call. I was currently a pastor in California, got the call to move to Apple Valley in the summer of 1964. We arrived here on Labor Day. The American Lutheran Church gave $40,000 to start this place. They had bought the land already. They had engaged an architect named J. Calder Pepys, and the building was under construction. So I started in the 1st of September, and there was a woman named Ina Mae Thompson who was hired to do visits in the community, and she scouted the community and she gave me prospective names. She worked about 2 weeks, and I did nothing but visiting homes for 6 weeks, all of September and into October. The first service was on October 12th. I made about 500 home visits and made notes of prospective members. And on the first Sunday of October 12th, 1964, there were 212 people in church, which is quite remarkable, I thought. And we went about setting up a church council, and the church was officially begun in January, incorporated in January 2065.
Awesome.
Let me tell you some stories about the beginning of Grace Lutheran Church and about the people who joined. What was unique, I thought, about this place was all the young families. We were young ourselves. Most people in their 20s and 30s. This was the first time they had bought their own home. And the homes cost about 15, 16. The most expensive home in Apple Valley was $17,000. And the house payments were about $90 a month, or $100 at most. And people were enthusiastic about their new homes. They were enthusiastic about a new church. And people joined in with great vigor and enthusiasm, eager to help out. Not much experience, but they had grown up in churches, usually in the Twin Cities, and came here, and they were putting down lawns, rolling sod in their yards, and we did the same here at the church. They did painting and cleaning. We'd have a work night, and 30 or 40 or 50 people would show up to help out. It was that kind of enthusiasm. Starting a Sunday school, starting music and choirs, and the first years we were here, I baptized between 40 and 50 children a year. I remember one Sunday we baptized 8 children on one Sunday. It was remarkable. And I made many trips up to Fairview, Southdale to visit new parents and new babies. It was great. Our daughter, who was at 3rd grade at the time, was one of the oldest kids in the Sunday school. We had 2 kids in the first confirmation class, John Natwick and I can't remember the other guy. His father worked for the Department of Agriculture. But it wasn't very long before we had 20 and 30 kids in the confirmation classes. We had a choir of about 20 or 30 people, and there were attendance grew and grew. It wasn't long till we had 400 or 500 people attending services, and we met in that first unit, which only held about 250 people. So we had to go to 2 services. We tried even doing 3 services for a while, but that made very difficult scheduling. Let me tell you a little bit what Apple Valley was like when we first came. It was a development by Orrin Thompson, and they built these tract homes, which are very well built, very inexpensive. As I said, young families could buy them with like $100 down and $100 a month, and people thought that was a great deal, and it was. It enabled many young families to begin. When I first came here, there was no grocery store, not even a gas station here. All that came later on. Across the street, here was open fields. This church was built on the land of a Roman Catholic farmer named Tuzna, and across the street was a Roman Catholic farmer named his name slips my mind at the moment, but wonderful people, and we bought their land. They bought, American Lutheran Church bought 5 acres for this site, which was a great foresight to have that much land available. Orrin Thompson gave an apple tree, put in every yard, and the names of all the streets in the south side of 42nd were named after apples. We lived on Oriole Drive, and Haraldson and Whitney and others are the names of the streets over there. On the north side of 42, they were named after trees like maple and other trees, elm. Let me tell you a little bit about the building expansion. We were enormously crowded in this little building, and not much space for Sunday school or for choir, but people were a good humor and managed. We had blue folding chairs and a few tables, and people had to take up and set down stuff every Sunday, and they were willing and glad to do that. We had no full-time janitor. It was all done by volunteers. My wife was the first organist, a volunteer. The choir, she directed the choir, a volunteer. It was later on we paid small wages to some of those people. And Ina Mae Thompson, who did the initial visits, was gone, and it wasn't too long we had to hire someone in the church office and do bulletins and to do the other work. Typing baptismal certificates was a big job. It was very exciting and rewarding for me and for the people of this congregation to see the enthusiasm. And there wasn't much debt. I think the debt as we began was like $80,000. And we began to make payments on that in January right away. Some congregations weren't able to be what they call self-sustaining, that is paying their own bills, sometimes for years. But we were able to do that quite soon. And that was a great help to begin paying back the loan. And we'd only been here a couple of years when the need for space became so urgent that we had a little building program, about $100,000, to build a few more classrooms over there, which I understand are going to come to an end when you have your new building program going here. I'm very excited about that. I find that to be a good sign of health and vitality of this congregation. I came here for the wonderful salary of $6,000 a year, and they did provide us a house on Oriole Drive, and we lived on that. We had our 3 children. There was no school when we first came here. The kids went by bus to Rosemont. It wasn't very long until they built Westview School, I think in about 66 or 67. And so our younger kids went there. And I think by the time I left here, there were 15 schools in their District 196 Rosemont School District. I don't know how many there are now, but it's probably a lot more than that. We enjoyed our time here very much. And the people in this congregation were very welcoming, very affirming, and very good folks. In 1971, I received a call to a church in Minneapolis called Crystal, up on the north side, and it was with some sadness to leave this place, but some excitement about beginning a new place. I was here 7 years, and then I was at that call in Minneapolis and Crystal for 10 years. And from there we moved to River Falls for 7 years. Then in 1987 I was elected bishop of the Northwest Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church, and those offices were in Rice Lake. And that was a great experience. While there I was on the Board of Regents at St. Olaf. So we came back 2 or 3 times a year for those meetings, and we fell in love with Northfield. And for that we decided to move back to Northfield in retirement. I retired officially in 1995, but after that I did several interims, one in Norway, one in Chicago, one in in Northfield, and that was interesting and worthwhile. So I thank you very much. I wish Godspeed and God's blessing to Grace Lutheran Church and your future and your leadership. Some of the people I remember here were the Thorbergs and the Denistons and Pete Isley, of course. Everybody knew Pete Isley, and Bob Substead, Will Branning, and all those people here at the beginning. I see some of them are still around. Thank you for today, and God's blessing to you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
That was
you.
very interesting.
Thank you, Kaya.